Welcome to RecWired across Bullhorn LinkedIn Live. We'll probably just wait a couple of minutes just so everyone can just join. Just obviously make sure that we're going live and this all works, because otherwise we could just be talking to ourselves for 45 minutes, chaps. It's always nice when we get that message to say you're live and it's all working. Welcome to the session. We've got Abaid and we've got Jay from Bullhorn. Did you just want to do a couple of quick intros, guys?
Yeah, no, it's appreciated. Thank you for having us. So for anyone that doesn't know me, it's Jay Roberts. I'm coming up to 7 years at Bullhorn now. And then 12, 13 years in the recruitment SaaS space. And I predominantly wear two hats here at Bullhorn. The first being is, like, shock horror to anyone, I'm a sales guy. I sell software to recruitment businesses. And then if we're successful in creating that partnership, I then go on to my second hat, which is account management as well. So across the UK and I for me.
Fantastic. And Abaid?
Yeah, good to meet everyone. My name is Abaid. I'm a senior solutions consultant here at Bullhorn. So I partner very closely with people like Jay, so our sales team. So my job is all about helping our clients understand, how we can solve their challenges with our software solutions. So I think that's definitely going to be part of what we're doing today here, where I'm going to be taking you through a demonstration of AI and Bullhorn. And we're going to be collaborating, I think, really nicely today. So it's going to be a good session.
Fantastic. And we're aiming to make it an interactive session as well. So you should be able to ask questions on, if you're watching via LinkedIn Live, Facebook or YouTube, you should be able to ask questions and they'll pop up, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go. So I guess for me, the most important thing I sort of think is around, what is AI and how will it affect recruitment? I think there's a recognition that people have heard it so much that they know it's here, they know it's probably coming, it's going to impact them. But when we talk about AI, what do we really mean?
Cool. So I agree with every word you've just said there. I think the recruitment industry has been so inundated with the words AI that it's kind of flogged the market a little bit, and the knowledge or education is quite sporadic, is probably the best word to put that. So when it comes to AI, the number one objective that I think every business leader has is, how do I become more efficient? How do I...
So I'm not sure if that's you, Jay, or me. So
I think it is. Can you hear me okay, Andy? Yeah, there, we're back. Jay?
I think Jay's just cut out for a bit. So you must be seeing just while we're getting Jay back in the room. So Abaid, you're obviously seeing this on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, people are constantly asking for AI, but do they really know what they're asking for, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I think the way we like to compare it to is when the word automation became a thing, what does that actually mean, right? And I think AI means something different to everybody. And we're always here to sort of help people understand, listen, from a recruitment context, what does AI mean? And what does it mean in the Bullhorn world as well? And yeah, it is a question that comes up quite frequently. But I think, the session today is going to really help, I guess, solidify what does that mean in the Bullhorn context and recruitment in general.
Fantastic. So Jay, we caught most of that, but you're catching up with leaders, and what are you seeing from your side?
Yeah, I think in order to remove, I guess, confusion in the recruitment industry, a lot of education is still needed, because AI is actually split into so many different categories. It's unreal. Whereas AI, I think many people's expectations is that it will just come in, it may remove or create redundancies, it may not, it may create further roles in the industry. I think there's still so many questions that are unanswered. So yeah, hopefully what we're about to show today is just going to show how you can get maybe entry-level people to a spot where they're needed to be quicker than a normal route, and B, how you can just take things and start to leverage tech to do that heavy lifting, rather than a person you may employ a 30, 40, 50 grand salary Whereas you can leverage that with tech and let tech do that for your 30, 40, 50, 60 user agency across the board.
I think that's a really good point. We saw, obviously a great market coming out of 21, 22. Probably the last couple of years have been difficult, I think, by anyone's standards would agree. So a lot of the founders in our groups, a lot of the people I work with in my advisory are looking at how they're going to grow back differently. And the previous model of we want to grow, therefore that equals growing headcount. Potentially, I think will be very different this time. So, did you want to get your slides up, Abaid?
I can.
Abaid, we'll do the slides at the end. We'll do the final two slides at the end, but we'll jump straight in to the demo. So, I guess a little bit of context for everyone today when we're discussing AI. What we'd like for everyone to do is think about AI as in two different categories. Now, the first category, I can pretty much guarantee that everyone will know it, but the second category is where the difference really comes in. So the first category we're going to be talking about is something called AI Assistant. Now, everyone has probably used something like this, but it's your ChatGPT of the world. An assistant is here to deliver you information on your request. So probably everyone's gone into ChatGPT and gone, hey, help me write this prospecting email. Help me summarize this profile. And the key difference here that we're trying to display today is AI it's great, but now how do you add that recruitment mindset to it? How do you start to get it to think and act based on your own data and based on how you would want a recruiter to act? The second half of today is really around something called agents or agentic AI. And the best way I can describe an agent inside of the recruitment industry is more like a ghost recruiter. If you think about it from the perspective, you probably don't want your recruiters doing all of this admin roles. You want them on the phone. You want them building those relationships, generating the pipeline. So the agents are here taking all that information that the assistant is giving you and acting upon it in the background. So it's very much a ghost recruiter doing all of that tedious work that you don't want your consultants doing anymore. So today we're going to be showing you just some examples of how you can generate stuff from the assistant, but then action it with the agents in the background as part of an automation journey as well. There is hundreds, if not thousands, of examples that we could cover as part of the assistants and the agents. But if anyone does have any questions around, hey, can it do this? Can it do that? We're more than happy to maybe answer that today or cover a different session if you have real specific use cases around it. So, Abaid, I'll pass over to you, my man.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, just fine.
Lovely. All right, so good to see everyone again. And just like Jay mentioned, your ChatGPT, your generative element when it comes to the AI assistant. Now, if you think today, if you were to utilize a ChatGPT or something similar, and you wanted to do something as simple as anonymizing a candidate CV or generate a summary of that candidate, the steps you would have to take would very much take you down the route of, I need to go to Bullhorn, I need to go to my ATS, I need to copy a lot of data that's in my ATS, and I need to paste that into ChatGPT. I then need to give some instructions to ChatGPT, and then therefore I get out a response. Now, obviously, that's time consuming. That's not great for your data either, right? Do you really want to be putting your data outside of Bullhorn? What instead you have is the ability to do those actions within Bullhorn. So here with the AI assistant, we're able to utilize data that you already have to produce really good generative content. So let's start off with something as simple as summarizing a candidate's profile. When I go into that, this is giving me access to not just the candidate CV, but also other data points that are going to be useful when we're generating that summary, right? So things like the job categories, education, CV, employment history, specialty skills. And again, you're not limited to those either, because with the AI admin panel, you will have the ability to add in your other data points on that record too. So really simply, I can come in here, hit generate, and that will now generate me a good description. Now, again, all of this is driven by the prompts, right? And I think this is something that we get asked about a lot when it comes to, well, how do I build a prompt, or what is actually controlling all this from behind the scenes? And it literally is as a prompt. And you can imagine when you right now, I think most of us have probably used ChatGPT. Again, mentioning it again, you have to use a prompt of some kind. It could be very simple in terms of I want to generate X, and ChatGPT gives you an output. But again, if you want to start getting a little bit more complex in terms of what you're asking, you do have to be more specific. So simply, in this case, when we've generated the summary, it's given us, I think this is about 10 bullet points. But if we wanted to order it in a different way, if we wanted to shorten it or make it make it 5 points instead of 10, for example, these are all things that you can control through the prompt studio, which we'll go through briefly a little bit later.
So in assistant
Andy.
terms, this is reducing what would have taken a consultant 15, 20 minutes probably to get through, to write it up, to read the CV, to put the salient points. So there's a real, time saving there, and potentially they're able to do more or, other activities as a result of this.
I also think it's an education piece. Now, if you're a business that has a lot of entry-level recruiters in there, a lot of them won't have that knowledge or history on building this sort of content that's going to land right with that prospective customer or customer. So I think it's helping them to enable them to have a good foundation or a base layer to start whatever you're creating, whether that's a pitch, whether that's an internal requirement. It's giving that recruiter the knowledge as well. So that I would say their onboarding time or L&D time is massively reduced because of it.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, indeed. And I think to add to that, right, it's also about you can drive consistency that way as well, right? Because if everybody's using the same prompts that are designed, built centrally within the business, you know that every time a summary is produced, it's always going to be in the way you want it to be. If you want to anonymize or do any other generative content out of one of these prompts, the business has control, and therefore it'll always be consistent, and your branding will always be on point.
Good.
Lovely. All right. So just carrying on a little bit here. So again, we could see when we generated this content, what we can also do is give additional instructions. So if I wanted to do something as simple as reduce this list, I could say reduce this list down to 5 main points. And as simple as that, I can again. Oh, and I my fat fingers there, but again, you can see here it did understand what I was trying to get to, so it has reduced that down to 5 points as well. So again, it's really, like you said, Andy and Jay, it's all about just making that process a lot simpler, more streamlined, and keeping your data in one place. Now, if we carry on here and go back out, we can also see we have other options available to us. So something as simple as creating a client pitch. And when we go into that also gives us the ability to add in things like a relevant job to ensure that what content we're actually generating is going to be relevant. And again, saving that additional piece of time where not only am I having to reference the candidate, but I would have to reference a job. So I would still have to go to a couple of different places, pull data from many areas if I wasn't using AI. And instead, now I can just do that very simply and easily. So I can come in here and say, let me add this job in here. I'm using specific data points. And again, I can generate that on the fly. It's done it in a really already formatted way. And again, we've had clients who've asked us, well, can we put specific headers at the top, and can we control what the footer looks like? Again, it's all about those prompts, right? And I think that's something we do a lot when we're talking to a lot of our clients, where we're educating around, well, how would you even create a prompt in the first place, or how do these work? And it's essentially, being completely honest, when I start off, I just use ChatGPT to build one for me, but then I take that and I use that as the foundation to build up to what output I'm expecting, essentially, and therefore you get the content you're looking to get from the system.
Awesome, thank you. Thanks. Really, I think the time saving, the the ability of that, as you say, to have people that you would have had to have trained for 3 to 6 months to get the sort of corporate understanding, to have the skills potentially to write, the fact that they can just be shown how to produce that and develop that, and that's going to be indistinguishable from a consultant with 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and I also think as well, like it's kind of in the name a little bit here. I don't know whether Bullhorn has done this intentionally or not, but the name of this is AI Assistant. It's here to assist the recruiter, and I want to put this, I think this hearsay to bed a little bit from a personal perspective, that I don't think AI is here to replace people. I think it's here to enhance them. With every piece of technology in the world, you can obviously lead the horse to water. A little bit. It's what the consultant then does for the time they get back that really matters. So I think the assistant is here to, as you said, Andy, help that L&D journey, help the onboarding, but also give fresh ideas to people that maybe haven't even thought about something at the same time. And it's probably a good segue, Abaid, into the agentic piece.
Yeah, no, indeed. So, when we've been talking about, pressing a button to build out some kind of content, right? And that's great, but we also want to take that to the next level. And this is where we talk about agentic AI. This is giving you the ability to say, well, I have to press a button to summarize my candidate. What if the system could do that for me automatically? And that's exactly what we mean when we talk about agentic AI, that ghost recruiter, if you will, that Jay talks about. We're going to have to copyright that, I think, Jay. Now, you might notice on this record that we're looking at for Floyd May, I have a card called Bullhorn AI. So just think of it from the perspective of, if I was to add a candidate to Bullhorn, and I walked away for a few minutes, or I've submitted that candidate to a job, there's going to be different steps I need to take as a recruiter, and there's various pieces of content that I might need to do, or steps I need to take as part of that journey. Now, what you can do with agentic AI through Bullhorn is you have the ability to produce that content automatically. So think of the AI assistant as, I need to go to it, and I can press a button, I can give it some instructions, and it'll produce that content for me. But when we're now taking it to that next level, this is where we can just produce it automatically. So you can imagine a candidate gets added to Bullhorn, and as soon as that happens, the enrichment agent and the generative agent are going away across their database, across those newly added candidates, and adding in a summary automatically for you. So when it comes to the point of, okay, well, I'm about to have that first call with a candidate, that information is already there. So I don't have to go in, read the entire CV, go through all the various pieces of data. I have that summary here for me. Equally, I could just use this for one of my clients and send it over to them quickly. Hey, we've got this really great candidate. Here's a little bit of information about them. What do you think? Equally, say we've submitted that candidate to a role, and and you want to speak to them ahead of that CV send. You could have pre-screen questions ready for you as well. And again, I think I really want to reiterate, right? Because I think something that goes through a lot of our clients' minds when we go through demonstrations, etc., is, well, what if I wanted more questions? What if I wanted them more geared towards a specific, the way we work, or things that we care about? And I guess to reiterate what I was saying earlier, you have that control. So you'll be able to build the prompts out that control the agentic AI. So you can say, well, every time we add a candidate to a job, we want to generate some screening questions. Or after they've had an initial screening through maybe the AI screening agent, we want to ask them some other questions that perhaps they haven't been asked yet. And you can control what that will look like. Things like an on my CV. And again, the idea here, right? And we're giving you some examples, but what I was saying to a client earlier today was, the world is your oyster, really. If you can think it up and apply it to a prompt, you can run that through agentic AI and apply it to the system. Now, right now we're talking about simple things like, well, I say simple, generating content automatically and adding it to a record. But what if we wanted to look at things like data health, right? And we wanted to enrich the record with perhaps missing phone numbers or missing email addresses, or even the last company that candidate worked for. These are also use cases that are worth looking at. So this is where we can take things like, well, if we wanted to extract specific information, we could use automation to build out those agentic bots that will go away through my whole database and extract the information. So you can see here we have things, we have several things I've created to test out in the past. So extract the candidate's nationality. I mean, again, how often that'll occur, but the point is, if that information is on the CV, we can extract it and we can then tell it to put it into a specific field on that record. So not only are we, making our lives so much easier by being able to generate that content automatically, but we can also use agentic AI to help maintain our database too. So look at those records that are missing various pieces of information and see if we can extract that from the CV and push that into the right field on the record.
I think just two real life use cases for everyone here. If you bucket into business development, data enrichment, I think every single recruitment company struggles with those two categories: data enrichment, business development. So take the data enrichment, for example. Bullhorn will help businesses to identify candidates that don't have an email address, for example. We'll then leverage the assistant to go and look at their CV and go, hey, find me an email address. The agent here is then to update every single candidate inside of Bullhorn with their email address. That, if you then translate to a consultant perspective, A, probably wouldn't happen because they're focusing on other things, and B, that then has a knock-on effect to things like potential searches or outreaches from a business development point of view. So it's that ghost recruiter in the background that's going away, updating these fields. When it does comes to things like searching, the search results are more accurate. If you take the business development side as well, we want to use your own data in order to aid you with BD. This is probably a whole different topic to talk about, but there's so much dependency on external sources outside of the ATS. I'm talking job boards, recruiter, where consultants, as soon as they get a job on, they're leaving the ATS to try and find candidates. Lo and behold, they'll find a great candidate, they'll pass it in and notice that they have 2 or 3 of the same person in there.
Yep.
So what do? Unfortunately for the business leaders, it's then cost them double, triple, quadruple the amount of money for no real tangible benefit, bar duplicated data. So a great example in just BD side here is extracting their last employer, maybe creating a task in Bullhorn to say, hey, you should be reaching out to ABC Limited because we know this candidate has just come on the market. We know that there could be a potential job opening there. That's all without the consultant having any manual intervention. It's using your own data working for you as well. So my advice to anyone kind of watching today and thinking they want to take that AI step would be to start to think about it in buckets or categories. How can I leverage AI to aid my BD? How can I leverage AI to aid my client candidate experience? And stuff like that would be my advice to everyone as well.
We've got a question from Liam Humphreys, and if you do want to ask a question, anyone that's watching, please just type it in and we'll do our best to answer it. So from Liam, with this high level of individual consultant configurability, what can be done by a company to oversee / control so the brand consistency you mentioned isn't unduly compromised?
Sure. So there's a couple of answers to that question, Liam. The first being, I'm not too sure whether we'll have time to show it today, but there's admin settings in the background where you can define roles of the persona of what's being generated. So a typical recruitment role is, I'm a CEO of a recruitment business. I want to portray myself like this, versus maybe an ops manager, ops director versus a recruiter. So they have different ways of amplifying what they want to do. The second thing here as well is, depends on, I would say, how you would want to control it internally, externally. Do you want to give people the ability to add their own prompts or not add their own prompts? Do you want to control if everyone is using the same prompts or not? So I think it comes down to ownership as well. Like with anything, people can make mistakes, but if the right ownership is in place, then I think that will also help as well.
I think it's a really good point. I mean, a lot of if we see as almost assistants and agents as following on from sort of the ground led by automations. A previous company I worked in, I guess it's which one. One of the biggest things we found was putting in automations because people didn't either trust them or the data wasn't good enough that we could trust the automations.
Yeah.
So, for example, we wouldn't send out an interview confirmation when someone booked the interview on the system, but it wasn't quite an interview, it wasn't quite right, so that would look silly if we send it to the client. So I guess how are you seeing, Abaid, that companies that are implementing these things well, how are they doing the change piece as well? Because it's a whole new world trusting an agent or an assistant to do stuff for you.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think right now, well, I was actually talking to another client today, and the way we've sort of been discussing it with them is, well, start off small, right? You start off with something like the AI assistant. That gets you started. That's the ground level. That's the baseline, right? Just like you would with automation, right? You have automation, there's your baseline, you have AI assistant. And then as you become more confident, as you start building out your plan and your strategy, you then start iterating on that with things like the agents, right? And again, even when you bring something like the agents in, you can also, it takes time to trust things, right? And that's understandable, right? We're all humans, that new things scare us. So you then put in you put stops in place. So it could be something as simple as, well, if you were automatically matching candidates to a job through the matching agent, well, don't automatically send the next step or send that email out. Maybe notify the consultant instead, right? Let them use their experience to confirm, okay, is this what we expect? Is this what, is this what we expect from that? So ultimately they get to the point where, it just works. I trust it. And instead of that intervention, they then allow the system to take over from there. And again, I think another piece we were discussing was, well, what if we segment this to maybe a small part of the business or to a few individuals as well? So there's a lot of ways you can sort of approach that, and especially for those who use automation, you can do it. It very much works in the same way, where you can create that segregation so you can control it, test it out, ensure that you're getting what you expect and that you can start trusting it, and then expand that out slowly from there.
I think the best formula, right, is technology plus people equals kind of like success a little bit. I don't think there'll ever be a world in recruitment where technology will be more successful than people, or people without technology. I think people getting that balance right of making sure that human interaction is still happening, but letting the tech do the tedious, low value stuff. I think when they've got that right balance, that's where the trust really comes in, because they're nurturing, they're taking the high value stuff and they're letting tech take the low value stuff.
Do you think we'll see a different type of person in the recruitment industry as a result of these changes? And the reason I ask that is that sometimes actually people quite like those, those repetitive tasks, and doing those, generally avoids having to have difficult conversations and call people and those type of things. So do you think that we might see a different type of person entering the industry, or different types of people succeeding in the industry?
I think we already are. I think there's, it's from a psychology perspective of persona of different people. You've got obviously recruiters that have had a 1 year experience versus recruiters that 20, 30, 40 years experience. And I think the most successful people are the ones that adapt to the times. The least successful people are the ones that don't. So, and that could be, your 40-year veteran absolutely adapting to the times. I think they'll succeed, versus the 1 year that doesn't adapt, doesn't have maybe the BD skills, hides behind an email rather than picking up the phone. They won't succeed. Obviously, two very extreme either ends of the spectrum there on the example, but I think the people that are investing, adapting, and listening to what their clients and candidates want, I think they're the most successful agencies moving forward. That's what the data is suggesting to us anyway. The businesses investing in tech because of their candidate and clients are beating their competition.
Definitely saw that in the grid report.
Yeah.
That and it's across a big enough data set that anyone who who hasn't seen the grid report, it's definitely worth. We'll stick a link to it beneath this after the show's finished. But it was one of my takeaways from that report, that just the increase that people had from that investment.
Well, I think my number one takeaway was actually candidates want to use AI if it speeds up the hiring process.
Yeah.
So if you take, I don't know, qualification or screening as an example, candidates actually don't mind using an agent talking to what is obviously AI, because their expectations of that recruitment agency is, hey, I've shared my data, I've told you everything about me. So that's my kind of forfeit there. I'm not speaking to a human being at this point, but their expectations in return is, I gave you everything. Now I want somebody dedicated, an expert in that field, to find me something, and quickly.
Yeah, the other thing is as well, agents and assistants, they work when when the candidate wants them to. So they're available at those times, maybe when they're traveling, maybe when they're not at work. Where generally recruitment consultants generally are not available as well. So I think it definitely adds to that candidate and indeed customer experience generally around things that can be done in time that suits you.
Yeah, take I don't know, the Amazon example, right? I can't remember the last time I spoke to somebody at Amazon, unless I had a real problem that I was missing something. But Amazon has embedded AI hugely, and most of us are happy using that AI. For example, like, hey, I've now got an email update telling me that my parcel's coming tomorrow. There comes the day. Okay, AI is now informing me it's 8 stops away. This is how long before Jay Roberts, the driver, delivers my parcel. And then you get a, how was your experience? But if you do have a problem, that's where you want that human interaction. So then they have a contact us, call me, email me, or even a chat bot to speak to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, for me, always looking outside of recruitment is a really good thing to do, because I think this the difference with recruitment is that recruitment is both B2C and B2B, which I think is lost on a lot of people who haven't worked in the industry. So therefore, I think it's sometimes a little bit slower to adopt technology. If you were just in B2C, then you would have, if it was just candidates, I think we'd have been a lot further on. But where we have this mix of both, I think it has to be a lot more nuanced, and that's probably why we haven't seen perhaps the adoption we might have thought we were going to see a few years ago. But like any form of innovation, it generally takes longer than you think. And then when it actually happens, it happens in a way you couldn't have ever imagined, and it's a lot more powerful. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Now, we've obviously seen demonstration there, Jay, of assistant and agent. Is this a demo system? Is this a something that you're going to be rolling out shortly, or is it available for people now?
So I guess first things first, we've probably shown 2% of the capability today. So there's a naturally, due to time constraints, there's a lot we haven't covered today or shown, but this is live. This is here within Bullhorn. So I guess to anyone watching, it's probably worth just a conversation with your account manager or with Bullhorn, just to probably expand upon everything we've covered today in more detail, but also the other stuff that we haven't covered as well. But yeah, it's all here. None of it's roadmap. Everything we demo or show is live and available.
Yeah, so you're actually able to demonstrate real AI in a real system that's being used by real customers right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very good. You had some slides to show.
Yeah, I think marketing will shoot us if we don't talk about this last slide. So Abaid, could you get up slide 4 for me, please, buddy?
I can. Bear with me.
Cool. Awesome. So for anyone that's kind of engaging, watching today, we also host a community all around building, I guess, knowledge when it comes to things like automation. And so because of this community that's been going on for 18 months, 2 years, even more, we've created a playbook. And I think the foundations for AI starts way before AI. It starts with actually making sure you've got that centralized room of data in your ATS, then automation, then AI. So I think if somebody is interested in looking at AI, they need to make sure they've got their automation strategy first. And so off the back of these communities are formed with a few members at Bullhorn, but majority, over 100 Bullhorn automation customers, all coming together on a monthly basis to understand certain problems and how they can combat those problems with technology. And what was born out of that was a playbook. This playbook wasn't created by Bullhorn. It was made to look good by Bullhorn, but all of these playbook ideas, which I think are now 85 in this playbook, was born from Bullhorn customers. And these are automation ideas whereby you can immediately implement them, and they should be having immediate impact for businesses. So for whoever's watching today, there's a QR code there. If you are interested in getting that playbook, feel free just to scan that QR code. That will then go off to our marketing team, and they should be able to supply you with the right material. But it's definitely worth looking at as getting ready for AI, making sure you have that automation strategy. And also, if there is further questions around this, feel free to obviously reach out to myself, Abaid, or if anyone knows, there's a guy at Bullhorn called Gary Cordery who owns the community with automation as well.
Yeah, I've been to both an in-person event and also the remote event, and I think it's really good in the sense that what it does is you've actually got real people doing real things, making real changes. So it's not, with the greatest respect, salespeople, solutions people showing the art of the possible. It's actually people that have done that and made that difference. So if you are a Bullhorn customer, or you're thinking about Bullhorn, it's definitely worth looking at that playbook, just for understanding what you're currently doing now, and the wins that people have had in adopting automation. We've got 10 minutes left, so we're able to take any questions if anyone else has got any questions. But one of the themes I just wanted to touch on, and where I think AI can really start to benefit recruitment companies, is around making their data powerful again. I think we've seen a real shift, if you like, over the previous years, of people just coming to rely on LinkedIn. Call it as it is. And I think you used the example earlier. Someone will go and search on LinkedIn only to find that they probably had the person on their database for the last however many years. I think what this type of technology will enable organizations to do is all of that gold that they have there in their databases, through both tidying up through automation, but also just artificial intelligence's ability to crunch through, and assistants' ability to crunch through lots of tasks, lots of data very, very quickly, will make those data assets valuable again.
Well, that exists inside of Bullhorn today, and I'm sure Abaid will be more than happy to show you. But that kind of falls into the search and match category. So if Abaid, you don't mind sharing your screen quick, we can cover that. But you're absolutely right. What we're trying to do here is ensure that I guess the ATS CRM is first, because then that is going to reduce the dependency on those external sources. We're not saying it's bad to go externally. What we're trying to say here is you want to go internally first in order to obviously ensure that you've got the people there already and you've been nurturing them. And this is another example of agents inside of Bullhorn. So when you've got your job, you've got an accountant job there, great, happy days. You've obviously got all of your data set. As soon as you put that job onto Bullhorn, basically what we're going to do is we're going to search Bullhorn for you, and we're going to go, hey, here's your top candidates that fit that role. Maybe it's worth speaking to them first. And going back to one of your earlier questions, Andy, around the type of people, successful, not successful, I think the more successful consultants will actually go, I'm going to give that a shot. I'm going to speak to these people because I've worked so hard in building that data set up. It's probably worth a shot talking to these. And then I think that has a knock-on effect to key ratios like time to fill, time to shortlist, time to interview, all that, or CV to interview, all of that that sort of good stuff. So the agents are here. They are recommending candidates against that role, and they are ranking them as well. And then we can put that into a list view and show you based on that ranking and stuff like that.
Got you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think one of the things that I've always thought is, I wonder what I would do if I had all of this when I was actually doing the job, and how the job would be different. I think in a lot of ways, sometimes I feel the job's probably a lot more complex than it was, but certainly things like this, the agents and the assistants, make it a lot easier for people to sort of navigate that and get to productivity and to spend the time on doing the stuff that matters, basically, which is, I guess, if you're in a staffing human business, then it's speaking to people humanly about staffing. That's the thing that makes really does move the needle. So yeah, I think. So gazing into the crystal ball a bit, we did say 2025. We're only in March, so how far is this going to go this year? So if we're having this conversation maybe next year, what could we expect to see coming up?
Can't hear you, Jay.
Sorry. I think the biggest milestone from Bullhorn will be things like directive AI, and that's basically leveraging AI to understand your own data set to then tell you or what you need to do and where you need to do it to be successful. So for anyone that knows something like Bullhorn Analytics, very good analytics tool for every level of the business. It surfaces that data, it presents it and slices and dices it in different way, but then start to apply AI to it. And now you've got AI and data telling you what you need to do next to be successful, which I think is, it's pretty powerful.
So we got a question or a point actually from Pure Smith. Great discussion, thanks. Some really cool functionality. Do you have any case studies you can share which demonstrate for every pound spent on Bullhorn AI tools, the ROI customers have seen post-implementation? I.e., so spend £1, get X back, generated with pre-AI adoption, or is this, or how much has this improved OP conversion ratio? So I guess there's probably some stuff you've seen in the grid report, but I guess, Jay, have you got any sort of real life case studies?
We have, but I don't have it prepared for today, so I'm more than happy to follow own that action point or follow that.
We'll certainly send that to you, Hugh. What I would say as well is that the technology can solve so much, and your point, Jay, was absolutely spot on. My old boss, Russell Clements, though, always used to thump the table every time we went in to spend £1 million or £2 on technology, because he'd point out that actually it hadn't really moved the needle on productivity. In fact, for a lot of companies, productivity per head has gone down. And if you add in wage inflation and the sort of size of the deals that people should be doing, it's probably declined. So for me, one of the other things that people who are implementing these technologies need to do is, okay, well, we've saved this time and we've done this, or we've got people to productivity quicker. How are we demanding that this actually gives us this return? Because I think there's a very real thing there that we always used to joke. People came in with the pitches, "Oh, it will save your consultants 10 hours a week." And my strong view was they'd just get better at table tennis. So I think there is a management piece there, and I think once you start replacing agents and assistants, start replacing some of these tasks, as founders, as leaders, I think it's really important that you're demanding of your people to make sure that time's being filled with stuff that's super productive.
We said this earlier, you can lead the horse to water, right? But it's what they do when they get there, which is the most important thing.
100%. Right. Well, thanks so much for your time, gents. It's really good to see the product, see it real, because I think there's a lot of people talking about AI. I think, as you said, it's a lot of people's roadmaps and a lot of coming soons, but it's very real, very there. And also you can see just how that could deliver benefits for straight away. So thanks definitely for taking the time.
Our pleasure.
Thank you for having us. It's been,
Thank you,
been a
Andy.
pleasure again.
Thank you, everyone.
And we'll be sharing the QR link to automation, so you can sign up for the playbook, and also as well for those of who will get you the any supporting documentation we can. Do read the grid report. We'll send a link to that as well. Lots of stuff in there around, and it's generalist, not just specific to Bullhorn runs. Around the general trends in the staffing industry. So definitely worth a read. Gents, thanks so much for your time, and looking forward to seeing what 2025 brings.
Yep.
Thanks, Andy.